All right. So, anyways, damn. All right. I don't know what's going on. Why is there so many technical difficulty? I can't get online and do it on my platform, and then when I'm on the phone as of right now, but it's acting up. All right, but anyways, I'll make it do what it do, hopefully, and then I just have to post it up on my YouTube channel. This not making any sense at all. But anyhow, so getting back, what's going on? I hope everybody had a good Christmas. I hope everybody hung out with their friends, family, and a significant other and all that other good stuff. Thank you. I'm glad that you guys got a chance to spend time with your family. Okay? And that's great. That's good. So I got a chance to spend time with mine, and I'm happy. All right? Anyways, I want to get into this subject matter about the ADOS movement because it's like I have to revisit the topic again. Why do I have to go back and revisit this topic? Because people who support this movement are making arguments that's not making sense. Now, to give a backstory about the ADOS movement, for those of us that don't know what the ADOS is, I'm going to present the information to you. So, right here, if y'all can see my screen. I hate that I have to do it like this. This sucks. But anyways, so the American descendant of slavery, which is the ADOS, is a term referring to in a lineage-focused political movement advocating for descendants of the enslaved Africans in the United States from its colonial period onward. Both concepts grew out of the hashtag ADOS created by Yvette Carnell and Antonio Moore. ADOS have made reparation for the system of slavery in the United States a key tenet of their platform. They want colleges, employers, and the federal government to prioritize African Americans who descend from American slaves. And they argued that affirmative action policies originally designated to help the descendant of slavery in America have largely been used to benefit other groups. The American descendant of slavery, they say, should have their own racial category on census form and college application and not be lumped in with other categories with similar skin color but different historical experiences. All right. One of its founders, Carnell, was a board member of the Progressive for Immigration Reform, described by the Southern Poverty Law Center as an anti-immigration group. The other founder, Antonio Moore, wrote on the liberal think tank Institute for Policies Studies site inequality.org on economics and race for several years. Okay. So, now down here you can see the overview. The overview is members of American descendant of slavery are descendant of enslaved Africans, their captors, European slavers, and the original inhabitants of the North American continent during the time of chattel slavery. And the Atlantic slave trade, they are descendants of at least one ancestor who was forced into slavery within established colonies in North America. During the time of chattel slavery, the term descendant of slavery was coined by Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. during the Civil Rights era in the United States of America. The addition of American within the term is used to establish specificity, as there are other countries that also use the forced labor of enslaved people to develop their nation. American descendant of slavery refers specifically to the descendants of the enslaved people held in captivity in North America during the initial establishment of the United States from the colonial era onward. ADOS cannot trace their ancestral roots to any specific country or tribe on the continent of Africa. Their African ancestors were sold into human trafficking, slavery by African traders on the continent who made a profit from selling their enemies and other unfortunate people to European traffickers. All right. So again, this is the information. Now, I know about this movement personally. I know about this movement only because I used to watch Yvette Carnell, and she has a platform called The Breaking Brown. All right. Along with Antonio Moore, who also has a show. I can't remember what is it? Tone Talks. That's the name of his show, Tone Talks. So that's how I know about this movement. All right. Now, in the beginning, when I first watched Yvette Carnell, I had no issue with her. I thought her platform was very informative because it geared towards political issues and economic issues. So I said, okay, the platform is seen to be very legit, seen to be a little polished, nothing wrong with it. But then, somewhere down the line, she started to go into the concept about the term African American, and she also started to use different terms such as ADOS, American descendant of slaves. Because what she was trying to do is create a distinction. What she doesn't realize, you're trying to create a dichotomy in a nutshell. Because it's hard to create a distinction between somebody that's African American and somebody who may be Caribbean. And the reason why I say that only because who's Caribbean may have an ancestry here in America. And then you got those who come from the continent of Africa, especially the western part of Africa, and they definitely got ancestry here in America, right? Because their ancestors were brought here to this country. Various of tribes. So I'm not taking away the idea about reparation. I'm not taking away the idea about being self-sufficient. But what I am going to take away is the fact that this creates the idea of a dichotomy and the politics of respectability. That's the problem that I have. And they're not the only group that has done this. It's several other groups that's doing it. And there's somebody else that's coming along with a name called the FBA, which is the Foundation of Black America, with similar ideologies. But what my issue is, it's one thing you want to start your own movement, but when you start to make an attack on people who identify or subscribe with the concept of Pan-Africanism, then that becomes a serious problem. Because you're telling the person that subscribes to Pan-Africanism that they need to stop trying to connect with other people from other diaspora. If many understood the history and know the information, then they wouldn't make such a claim. Now, I have many sources to back up what I'm going to say, all right? Then I'm going to give my critique. And I may give my critique in between while I am presenting sources, all right? So I'm going to present information based on my genetics, information about Pan-Africanism, Black nationalism. Also, I will present other information dealing with Nkoba and so many hosts of sources I have. So what I want to do is I am going to log off of here and let's go on their website. Alright, so this is the website. This is the ADOS website right here. American Descendant of Slavery. And as you can see, it says home, about, ADOS, etc., etc. Alright, so just click on the about section and it'll tell you who are the ADOS. The ADOS was started by the brain trust of Howard graduate and host of Breaking Brown political show, Yvette Carnell, and UCLA alumnus and attorney Antonio Moore, who hosts the weekly radio show Tone Talks. ADOS stands for American Descendant of Slavery, seeks to reclaim, restore the critical national character of the African American identity and experience, run grounding in our group's unique lineage, and which is central to our continuing struggle for social and economic justice in the United States. Okay. It sounds all good and dandy, right? And it says right here in his book, American Slavery, American Freedom, the historian Edmund Morgan includes that slavery was not a contradiction of American freedom, but rather that slavery was the institution that made white freedom possible. In other words, slavery was not a mistake so much as a precondition for a societal hierarchy which requires descendants of slaves to remain a bottom caste and be made to suffer the necessary failures of a brutal economic system. This was followed by a Jim Crow era that saw ADOS become actual contagions that led to a destruction of wealth through federally supported discriminatory practices like red line, black present, literally made wealth disappear in communities all white, all the while American whites and more recently immigrants enjoy advantage in a land of apparently equal opportunity that was in fact manufactured on the back of black failures. Oh my goodness. So let's skip all the way down. Okay, so as you can see, they got the little diagram on here showing the racial wealth inequality, etc. Okay, showing all this. All right. But see, here is the problem. Now, when they talk about the immigrants, they have included the black immigrants as part of those who are immigrants. Okay? Look here. Here's my thing. My thing is, you may have black immigrants that have businesses, but guess what? They're not making the lucrative income like their white counterparts or their Asian counterparts. So at the end of the day, the white and the Asians, they benefit more than anybody else. So my problem is when you try to throw shade at those who are Caribbean, especially, and those from the continent, it really shows your true character. It shows your true character because at the end of the day, you're not really fighting against racism. You're basically acting upon the idea of continuously perpetuating it by doing it to those who come from the bloodline of those ancestors that you're talking about. You're practicing the same ideology. What's the difference? So my question is, how do you fight against racism if you're going to create dichotomy amongst other black people and you got this bickering going on with another group called the FBA? So if that's going to be the case, then there's no sense in you fighting against racism. It makes no sense. How do you do that? But let's go back and reel on. Okay. So they go down here to say closing the racial wealth gap requires a new deal for Black America. President Trump's assertion during the 2016 presidential campaign that Black Americans have nothing to lose was met with defiance by those on the left. But the data supported the statement from all wealth levels to home ownership to student debt levels and beyond. African Americans across this nation are suffering. According to a study from Brookings, half of Black Americans who are born poor stay poor. Most Black kids who are born in the middle class families are downwardly mobile. And as Duke University economist Dr. William Sandy Darty and co-founder of the ADOS movement, Antonio Moore, along with other researchers, observed in their studies what we get wrong about closing the racial wealth gap. The concentration of ADOS at the bottom economically is a consequence of lack of wealth transfer and multi-generational oppression, not individual agency or cultural patterns. Okay. Again, so what I'm looking at is the comparison based on their website. If you notice right here, what do you see? The comparison to white families, not the comparison to not Democrats, not the comparison to immigrants, black immigrants, but the comparison to whites. So if you're again trying to fight against racial wealth gap, then why are you bringing antagonism on those who are or whose parents are Caribbean or come from other part of the diaspora? I mean, what do they have to do with what you're showing here? So to me, this shows a bit of contradiction to their argument. It shows a contradiction because you claim that the immigrants is making wealth, but you're not showing that on your website. You're claiming that the immigrants are benefiting and profiting, which there are those that do, such as the Asians. But when we talk about the black immigrants, you're not showing that here on your website. You're showing that the white family making more income than the black family. That's the part that I'm seeing right here. But what it is, it's about having power and leverage. So what I'm looking at is the competition of my people built this country. Your people ain't did this. So back off. This is our country. We gonna take over. You ain't running nothing. So, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if you built the country or not. You ain't running nothing. You still at the bottom. Just like those Caribbean brothers and sisters, they still at the bottom. They ain't, I guarantee you, if you could put up a statistic right now and show me that the Caribbeans, of those who are descendant of Caribbeans or the Africans in the diaspora, and they are wealthy like their white counterpart or their Asian counterpart, then I'll sit back and listen. But as far as my concern, there is no proof on this website. But then it kills me because, especially with Yvette Carnell, I was watching her channel, and what I noticed about her channel, she talks a lot about celebrities. She talks more about celebrities than she does with anything else. She worrying about celebrities that's wearing certain type of clothing, or they going over to African countries, visiting the countries and whatnot. If your focus is on black people here in America, right, and economic issue, then why are you worrying about the celebrities going over to the continent of Africa? I mean, after all, they got that leverage. They got the income. They have the right to go to different places, right? So let's take Beyonce for example. If you guys can remember, the movie that she did was called Black is King, which I thought was a phenomenal movie. It was a great movie. It was on Disney. She had a whole lot to say about that. So Beyonce need to figure out what she gonna do. Beyonce using all this African ritual. Why are you worrying about that? I mean, if your concern is black people in America, why are you worrying about Beyonce and her movie? So, is it really about political stuff, or is it a bunch of gimmick? And my thing is, what type of bill have the ADOS movement put into place? When the last time the ADOS movement went down to the White House or to the House of Congress and tried to push for a reparation bill. Don't worry, I'll wait. When the last time they did that? Where was the ADOS movement when there was a conference taking place regarding to that HR 40 bill? Where was the ADOS movement? Why did they not make their voices heard? Why did they not stand inside the podium and voice their concern to the Congress regarding to the bill? Why they not say anything? Why Yvette Carnell didn't do anything about that? Why Antonio Moore did not write a letter and say, hey, we need to work on focusing on just those who are African American in this country? But, see, our history goes pretty deep. See, you can't just take one part of slavery and say, aha, that's what we're going to use. No, that's not how it works. You can't just take information, because now what you're doing is cherry picking. You really got to study in depth about celebrity. You got to study more into details about slavery. You really must study that, because slavery goes really deep. It does not just deal with just one source of information that can just be beneficial. You really got to study it, because there's different events that happen throughout slavery. But let me go ahead and continue. Again, this is their website. Y'all can look up the website. Oh, let's look up the Black Agenda. What's the Black Agenda? So here's the Black Agenda. It says we need set aside for American descendants of slavery, not minorities, in a throwaway category which includes all group except white men. That categorized has allowed Democrats to use programs like affirmative action as a giveaways to all group in exchange for votes. The bribery must end. That begins with a new destination on the census with ADOS and another for the black immigrants. Black immigrants should be barred from accessing affirmative action. Wait a minute, hold on. Black immigrants should be barred from accessing affirmative action and set aside intended for ADOS, as should Asian, Latino, white women, and other minority groups. In addition, ADOS hiring and employment data must be demanded for all businesses receiving tax credit, incentives, and governmental support, as well as all governmental agencies, national, state, and local. It is our belief that this will show that there are minimal, if any, ADOS professionals in the field, including but not limiting to engineering, medical, legal, and tech. Okay, so stop right there. So black immigrants should be barred from affirmative action. Make it make sense. Make it make sense. So that means those whose parents are immigrants, but they were born in America, they should be barred from affirmative action too? That doesn't make sense. That does not make sense at all. So they have this perception, like for example with the HBCUs. Their issue is they basically have an issue with black immigrants going to HBCUs. Like, I remember seeing on Yvette Carnell's Twitter page on June the 10th, which is June 19th. It was one HBCU that had the colors red, black, and green. She flipped the script about it. She had a big old fiasco about that. She said, these are not our colors. Take this color down. I can't stand seeing this color. Yep. And she said the red, black, and the red, white, and blue is her colors. These are not our colors. That doesn't make any sense. If she had an understanding of what Pan-Africanism was about, or the concept of black nationalism, she wouldn't come with that type of mindset. And again, it does not make any sense. This whole ADOS movement is just backwards to me. You're telling me this guy right here, Marcus Garvey, right, and this color right here does not have any significant meanings. You're telling me the red doesn't represent nothing, the black doesn't represent anything, the green doesn't represent anything, right? The red represent blood, black represent the people, green represent land. And you're telling me that this doesn't mean anything? Okay, but I got some information I want to read from this book as well, so don't worry. I'm going to get to it. All right, so let's go ahead and let's look at information called Understanding ADOS, the movement of hijacking black identity and weakening black unity in America, prepared by Jessica Ann Mitchell, and I don't know how to say her last name. But this is a book that she wrote in 2020, earlier this year, in January. So I'm going to show you guys. All right. So right here it's called Understanding ADOS, the movement to hijack black identity and weaken black unity in America. And I'm glad she wrote this book because she breaks it down. So it says hypnosis, an overview of ADOS, ADOS leadership, white supremacists, and the black vote, ADOS hijacking legacies and identities, the ADOS Black American purity test will further persecute black communities, etc. Okay, and Pan-African response. Now, here's the thing. Those in the Pan-African movement, they don't bother nobody. They trying to be inclusive by bringing black people together and say, look, we dealing with the same people. We dealing with the same problem here. What can we do to correct this issue and work on our issues so we can move forward as a people? Now, here's the problem that I have again. Nobody is taking away black people rights to receive reparation. Nobody's doing that. And for some reason, ADOS feel like the immigrants are taking away our rights to get reparation when you should be taking that out on white supremacy. Because that's the ones that's stopping the reparation. They the ones that benefit the most off of slavery. We talking about these banks. We talking about these Ivy League colleges. We talk about these gas stations. Do we need to go there? These companies that's predominantly owned by Europeans, they're reaping the benefits. They have reaped the benefits off of slavery. And you act like these black immigrants that you're speaking of, especially those from the Caribbean, have not ever dealt or experienced slavery. You act like they don't have any ancestry here in this country. How do you know? Can't you verify that? How do you know somebody's genealogy when you barely even know your own genealogy? You barely know about your own family. Hell, some of y'all don't even know your damn daddy. Some of y'all don't even know your damn mama. So you barely even know about your own genealogy, your own background, your own history, but you have the nerve or the audacity. You have the audacity To tell somebody that they don't come American descendant of slaves. How the hell do you know? How do you know? What's your proof? What's your evidence? How do you know? You don't. You're just making the assumption. So I see so many people who jump on the bandwagon of the ADOS movement. And they say these things, but they have no proof to validate. And yes, they're anti-African. The ADOS movement is anti-African. They don't want to have any connection with Africa. You don't believe me? Go back and look at Yvette Carnell's video. Look up the Breaking Brown family. Okay? She said it herself. She said Pan-Africanism is dead. She even said that if you sold my ancestors into slavery, you're not my people. But what you don't know, I got some information about slavery and black people here in America. And I ain't talking about being owned by a group of white folks, but those blacks who own slaves as well. I can show proof of that. But then let me just go ahead and continue before I miss my thoughts. Okay. All right, so let's look at an overview of the ADOS. Right here, this is the road. On the cups of Black Lives Matter and in the middle of the International Decade for People of African Descent, a fringe movement called the American Descendant of Slavery has emerged to systematically fracture black communities and directly attack black unity or Pan-Africanism among the United States black population. The movement relies heavily on white-wing, anti-black, anti-immigrant talking points and a series of policy positions relying on a person's ability to produce documentation or what I am calling slave papers in order to verify black native identity. If implemented, the end result of these policies could be weakening further marginalized black population. And then, of course, it talks about their slogan, which is ADOS and tangible 2020 and cut the check. And speaking of cutting the check, they can't cut the check right now. No, they can't cut no checks because they too busy trying to figure out if they gonna either send $600 or $1,200 as a stimulus package or even $2,000. So if they can't even negotiate on the amount of money they're going to send to us during this pandemic, then what makes you think that they finna cut the check? Like, what makes you really think they finna just go ahead and just cut the check as of right now? It's not going to happen anytime soon. The ADOS movement is often aligned with another group of similar beliefs called Foundational Black Americans, founded by filmmaker and YouTube personality Tariq Nasheed. Please don't get me started about them because they the worst. Don't get me started about the Foundation of Black America. They're the worst. But anyways, let's continue. Despite its claim reparation focus, the ADOS movement appears to operate like the Trojan horse to infiltrate the black community, hijack black American identity, and contaminate legitimate causes like the fight for reparation and civil rights. A critical look at the group's leadership, proposed policy, and actions provides more insight concerning the ADOS the ADOS movement's true intention. ADOS harmful and anti-black practices and policies. ADOS leaders have a history of working with right-wing media like Newmax and the fake progressive organization, Progressiveness for Immigration Reform, that is supported by white supremacist John Tanton. ADOS leaders want to split black representation on the 2020 census and make ADOS its own category, which would negatively impact the representation of black communities, potentially decreasing access to funding and other resources available to black communities overall. And it goes on to say, ADOS co-founders claim to be outspoken advocates for cash payout reparation, but refuse to support the HR 40 Commission to Study and Develop Reparation Proposal for African American Act. A bill sponsored by Representative Sheila Jackson Lee. ADOS leadership initially supported the bill, but is now pushing for the bill to include their newly present marker ADOS instead of African American. This is a frequent I can't even say the word right now. But anyway, in other words, this word means that it's very ludicrous, pretty much. So it says this is an excuse to move the goalposts and center the reparation movement on the ADOS leadership instead of the communities they claim to represent. Now, I'm going to tell you why the ADOS don't want to support that bill and what their issue is with Sheila Jackson. Because for one, Ms. Sheila Jackson Lee is not only a congresswoman, but she's originally from New York, and her parents are Caribbean. Okay, so that's their main issue, because she's Caribbean. They feel like she should not be the one to speak on the bill or to have a say on reparation. That's their issue. Okay, so their issue is the fact that she's a descendant of those who are Caribbean, who are a descendant of those who are African. Forget the fact that she was born in New York, but the fact that she has a Caribbean background, they feel like she's not obligated to speak on anything or say anything regarding to black people in America. And that makes absolutely no sense at all. What's the issue? I don't understand. Now, places like New York, Louisiana, Florida have a very high diversity, especially when it comes to blacks. When you go to Florida, you will come to find out that there are many of them who are of Haitian background. Okay, there are those who are Jamaican, and there are those who are Afro-Latinos, like Dominicans and Cuban, etc. Same way, when you go to Louisiana, you'll find out that there's a lot of Creole people in Louisiana, meaning that those who are mixed with African descent, Indian, some Caucasian blood, particularly French, and Spanish. Okay? So with that being the case, because there's such a high diversity in New Orleans with the Creoles, you got the blacks. Okay? And you have blacks who have Haitians in them. And then when you go to New York has a strong diversity of blacks. You talk about blacks from Trinidad, Barbados, Guyana, Jamaica, you name them. Virgin Island, you name them. And the people from Liberia in Africa, they are a descendant of those who are what? African Americans. The people in various parts of Jamaica, the Maroons, who are they a descendant of? African Americans. Even those in Mexico, you got Afro-Mexicans. Guess who they are a descendant of? African Americans, or those who were African slaves. That's who they are a descendant of. So there's no logic into the argument of let's go ahead and let's try to separate ourselves from these group of people. Why? Because like this sister said, it will mess up the black population and will mess up the diversity. It creates more problem. It's enough problem that we're dealing with economic issues. So now it's trying to create more problem by trying to create another group or another chaos and confusion. It makes no sense. So when you go to a business, a black-owned business, are you going to walk up to somebody and ask them, hey, are you American descendant of slaves? Are you American descendant of slaves? Oh, are you American? Oh, you're not? Oh, well, I'm sorry. We can't support you. We're looking for American descendant of slaves. That's asinine. Why would you want to do that? That's totally asinine. It makes no freaking sense at all. Why? If you're trying to build diversity in the black community and you're talking about allies, that's another term they use, allies. If you have allies, why would you try to create a distinction? Why would you try to push them to a side? That makes no sense. But, again, this is the ADOS movement. All right, let's continue. Oh yeah, ADOS leaders bash and refuse to work with established black reparation organization like NCOBRA, which stands for National Coalition of Blacks. National Coalition of Blacks for Reparation, which has advocated for reparation on behalf of black Americans for decades. ADOS leaders and members frequently attack black historians, scholars, activists, and leaders through a form of online and in-person harassment called swarming. That makes no sense. ADOS leaders seek to limit black immigrants from obtaining U.S. visa, similar to the policies advocated by white supremacists that are attempting to stop the browning of America by decreasing black and brown immigrant entry to the U.S. ADOS leaders do not believe that black Americans can or should have any connection with Africa. They tell their followers to trace their lineage to America only and to stop acknowledging Africa as the home of our ancestors. And that's a fact. What she's saying right there in this book is true. That's what they're trying to do. Yvette Carnell even said that she said it herself to her followers, we should not be connecting with Africa. Africa is not our home. Our home is America. Okay? That's what she's saying. Our ancestor is here in America. This is Yvette Carnell telling her followers that. But hold on. Let's not forget this woman took a DNA test. According to her DNA, it's shown that she has Nigerian in her. Wait a minute, hold on. So wait a minute, but her DNA says she like 63% African and like 37% European. Somewhere like that, roughly. So wait a minute, if your DNA show that you 63% African and you're only 37% European, just a thought. All right, so what I am going to do is go ahead and I'm going to go to the next source. All right. So again, you guys can look this up. It's called Understand ADOS, the movement of hijack black identity and weaken black unity in America. You can look it up. You can download the PDF actually. So this is the name of the sister right here that wrote this book. All right. So let's go on and let's look at what NCOBRA is. What is NCOBRA? So I'm on the NCOBRA website, all right, which is ncobra.org. But once again, ain't nobody did nothing to fight for reparation for black folks. Nobody. Okay. Let somebody else tell it. Or they wasn't doing a good job, or it wasn't enough. Let somebody else tell it. Right here, it's called in Cobra, National Coalition of Blacks for Reparation in America. Let me say that again. National Coalition of Blacks for Reparation in America. One more time. National Coalition of Blacks for Reparation in America. Now, as you can see on their page, it says, why are African descendants entitled to reparation? Let's look at this. The transatlantic slave trade and chattel slavery, more appropriately called the Holocaust of Enslavement or Ma'afa, was a crime against humanity. Millions of Africans were brutalized, murdered, raped, and tortured. They were torn from their families in Africa, kidnapped, and lost family and community association. African peoples in the United States and the prior colonies were denied the right to maintain their language, spiritual practices, and normal family relation, always under the threat of being torn from newly created families at the whim of the slave owner. Chattel slavery lasted officially from 1619 to 1865. It was followed by 100 years of government-led and supported denial of equal and humane treatment, including black codes, convict lease, sharecropping, peonage or whatever that is, and Jim Crow practices of separate and unequal accommodation. African descendants continue to be denied rights of self-determination, inheritance, and for participation in the United States government and society. The laws and practices in the United States continue to treat African peoples in a manner similar to slavery, maintaining dual system in virtually every area of life, including punishment, healthcare, education, wealth, maintaining the myths of white superiority and African descendants inferiority. There you have it. That's their website. And also, these political groups who operate under the concept of Pan-Africanism, they had grassroots, which is Pan-Africanism, and some of the members ran for politics and actually was elected. Perhaps let's look at Jackson, Mississippi. The mayor who had passed away back in 2016, I believe. He was a part of the grassroots. He was part of the new. So, with that being said, what you're saying, black people have not accomplished anything under being part of the grassroots? I mean, yeah, there was some organization that didn't last very long, and we know that to be a fact, a reality. But there were those who made it beneficial for others to engage into politics. And there was a sister recently in Athens, Georgia, who was elected, guess what, under the grassroots. Matter of fact, I can pull her information up. Give me one moment. Hold on. Ooh, let me pull this information up. Uh, okay, I'll look her information up later. So it's on here though. But anyways, she was elected in a small town. I think it was Athens, but it's a small town in Georgia that she ran for politics, got elected, and she was a part of a grassroots movement. So I have to put that information up later on. But anyways, getting back to the point that I was making, there has been some success with those that was involved in these particular movements. They did not just exist just to be existing, right? They didn't just get on social media and talk a whole bunch of shit. They were actually out there trying to make things available for African descended people. If it wasn't for the grassroots movement, a lot of your favorite black politicians probably wouldn't even be in office right now. Think about it. Because the grassroots movement has encouraged and motivated black people to be more political and be more social. But again, I guess Pan-Africanism is dead and it should not exist and it should be thrown away. It should be a thing of the past, I suppose. Make it make sense. Let's continue. All right, so now going further down, what forms should reparation take? Reparation can be in as many forms as necessary to equitably, fairly, or equitably, fairly address the many forms of injury caused by chattel slavery and its continuing viciousness. The material forms of reparation include cash payment, land, economic development, and repatriation. I can never get that word right. Resources, particularly to those who are descendants of enslaved Africans. Other forms of reparation for black people of African descent include funds for scholarships and community development, creation of multimedia depictions of the history of black people of African descent, and textbooks. For educational institution that tells the story of from the African descendant perspective, development of historical monuments and museum, the return of artifacts and art to appropriate people or institution, exoneration of political prisoners, and the elimination of laws and practices that maintain dual systems in the major areas of life, including the punishment system, health, education, the financial/economic system. The forms of reparation received should improve the lives of African descendants in the United States for a future generation to come, foster economic, social, and political party, and allow for full rights of self-determination. All right. And again, who should receive reparation? There it goes. All black people of African descent in the United States should receive reparation in form of changes in or elimination of law and practices that allow them to be treated differently and less well than white people. There it goes. There it goes. Wait a minute. And it says who must make reparation. Incorporate seeks reparation at this time from two groups, government and corporations. Why did they mention corporations? Because these corporations, such as the banks, such as these universities earlier, they had their shares, their dues, and their hand on slavery. Especially the banks. They had their hands on slavery. But again, these grassroots ain't no good. They need to be done away with. They ain't talking about nothing, and they can get over this African stuff. So you too busy focusing on the title of African, but not focusing on the cause. How interesting. All right. So, with that being said, you can go on incobra.org and look up their website and find out all information that you're looking for. So, go on their website and look it up for yourself. All right. Okay, so I'm going to have to skip some of these information because I don't want to hold you guys up. I know you guys are spending time with your family, and I know you rather do what you got to do. You ain't got to sit up here listen to me run my mouth. And that's okay. That's fine. So I'm going to make it fast and quick because I ain't trying to be on here too long either. All right. But anyways, here's another source. The rediscovery of black nationalism. Let's talk about that real fast. Okay. So here we go. Black nationalism in America. The direction of black movement in America has clearly shifted. Caught up in the Martin Luther King Jr. Now visualize only Malcolm X's nightmare with the change of goals from integration and assimilation to pluralism. For some activists, separatism, the relative puncency of materials on black nationalism in American history has become apparent. These two books are thus welcome contributions. They supplement each other, one being an interpretive essay and the other a documentary anthology. All right, so this article goes in and talks about the outline of black nationalism and the articles and the journals that was written about it and whatnot. So, okay, so let's go ahead and skip down real quick. Okay, it says John Bracy and August Meyer and Elliot Woodrick have gathered considerable long neglected material in their anthology, the first collection of original writings devoted entirely to black nationalism. Moreover, the editors, who are both academics and civil rights activists, bring to their task wide knowledge, a sense of perspective, critical sympathy, and a keen eye for relevant and little known details. All right, so again, here's the information that goes into a little bit about black nationalism. So let me go ahead and skip that. All right, and here's a book about black nationalism. Ooh. Red, Black, and Green, Black Nationalism in the United States. Alfonso Pinckney. Red, Black, and Green, Black Nationalism in the United States. That's interesting, right? Yeah. And it was written in 1976. So, here's the introduction. Black Nationalist Tradition. Marcus Garvey and the Universal Negro Improvement Association. Malcolm X and the Rise of Contemporary Nationalism. And the impact of contemporary nationalism on the black community. But let people tell it. We shouldn't have Pan-Africanism. We should not even do Pan-Africanism. It doesn't work. It's horrible. It's bad. It's outdated. Those people over there in other countries, they don't like us. They don't identify with us. They don't see us. They don't want us around. So why are we trying to connect with those people when those people don't even like us? Well, I got news for you. I got news for you. Your own people in America don't even like you. You got your own people in America that tell you that they don't fuck with you. They don't even know you. That you don't even exist. You're not even part of their family or their social class, social group. You're not a part of their gang. Yes, I said gang. You're not a part of their sect, their tribe. Oh, yeah. So while we sit up here making the arguments about how immigrants don't like us, let's talk about our fellow black people, how they dislike us and how they really want to, how they're those of them that envy us, or they want to fight amongst us, or they want to create chaos. We don't want to talk about that. We don't want to have that conversation, but we sure in the hell want to see how the immigrants dislike our asses and disown us, and they don't want to be bothered with us. Well, that happens very often. That's like that throughout humanity. Okay? That's not just with immigrants. It's not just with white people. You got humans. So, yes. Now, I will say this. Although we have something in common, we do have a subculture. Yes, we do got a subculture. Alright? So that we can say this, but when it comes to us coming together as one, we bring all our differences, all our little beliefs and ideology, and combine it as one element, because we know that we got something very in common. And what we have in common is our ancestry, our descendancy. That's what we got in common. But we're taught that those people don't like us. Why do you want to go around those idiots? Those people are no good for you. Those people don't even respect you. They don't like you. And worry about the people here in America. Why are you fighting for those people over there? Why those people fight for us? They need to mind their own business. But at the same time, they are our allies. That makes no sense. They are the allies, but they need to mind their own business. They need to fight with their own people. They need to worry about their people. But they are allies. Okay. Alrighty then. So now I want to show you guys my DNA test. Alright? And the reason why I'm showing you the DNA test only because give me a second. Okay. I'm back. So now here's my DNA test right here, which came from Ancestry. All right. Now it has been updated just recently. Okay. And as you can see, if you guys look at this, the first thing you notice is 46% Nigerian, right? 27% Cameroon, Congo, and Western Bantu people. 14% Mali. 3% Benin and Togo. Of course, I got 3% Irish, 2% Ivory Coast and Ghana. Spain, 2%. Scotland, 2%. Germanic European. Okay, so here's the thing. What that goes to show is that I am, based on my information, my composition, I am more of African descent. All right? And there's a little information down here at the bottom. Early Virginia African Americans from your region. Let's click on that. It says here, what? From your region. As you can see. It says most African Americans in this community can trace their ancestry back to West Africa. In present-day Republic of Cameroon and the Republic of the Congo, Nigeria, Ivory Coast, Ghana, Benin, and Togo. Over a 200-year period, many were enslaved and brought to Virginia to work on tobacco farms. Life for both free and enslaved black Virginians grew more difficult as race-based laws imposed new restrictions. Black Virginians responded with with rebellions and cultural innovations. While early Virginia plantations were concentrated on coastal plains, planters gradually moved westward. They brought enslaved people with them as a population grew and they searched for new land. A dwindling free population. Okay? Uh-oh. You see? Check this out. A language of their own. They created unique dialects, modes of storytelling, music, which became important custom for unifying communities. Is that not African? New forms of communication included blends of African tradition and uniquely American creation, and some music tradition became the roots of today's blues, jazz, and gospel. Uh-oh. Blues, jazz, and gospel. Blues, jazz, and gospel is what? Where did it come from? The element of African tradition. But we're supposed to denounce that. Oh my goodness. And here it goes. Spirituality was an important cultural practice among enslaved Virginians. The first black church in North America was founded during this period on a plantation in Mecklenburg County. Spirituals, religious folk songs, combining expression of faith and the hardships of slavery, are closely linked to black spirituality in North America. But look at this. Look at the diagram. All right. And that is the people of the Cameroon and Congo and Western Bantu people. Uh-oh. Let's look at the Alabama part of this. Wait a minute, but I'm not African, right? Okay, let me scroll that down. Most of the African Americans in this community can trace their ancestry back to West Africa in the present day of Republic of Cameroon, the Republic of the Congo, Ivory Coast, Ghana, Nigeria, Benin, Togo, Senegal, and Mali. Oh. See? You see there? Okay. So, you guys see there? But I'm not African. I'm not African. Oh no, I'm not African. I'm just a descendant of the slaves. I'm not African. I'm just a descendant of the slaves. How disrespectful. How disrespectful. Ugh. Alright, so I have another information I want to show. This one comes from 23andMe. And guess what? 23andMe is saying the exact same thing. Well, if not the same thing, it's very similar. It's very similar. Very similar to Ancestry. Check this out. Oh, look at this. Look at this. 78.6% Nigerian. 41.6% Ghanaian, Liberian, Sierra Leonean, 21.8%. Oh. Congolese, 10.6%. Southern East African. And of course, I got some European in me. Wait a minute, hold on. Oh, my recent ancestry in the Caribbeans. Oh, guess what it says? Tiffany, your DNA suggests that you had Caribbean ancestors. Ah, interesting. I had ancestors from St. Andrew Parish and Westmoreland Parish. Interesting. Now, throughout that information, that validates my argument, right? That validates who I am. That validates. But again, I'm not supposed to claim my African ancestry, correct? If I'm American descendant of slave or slavery, I'm supposed to denounce my African ancestry and just call myself American descendant of slavery. Really? The African American population by blackdemographic.com, but I'll probably read that later. Alright, so check this out. I'm going to read a little something from Marcus Garvey. Of course, what did Marcus Garvey say? When people tried to criticize him for being Jamaican, what did he say? He said, all intelligent people know that one's nationality has nothing to do with great ideas and great principles. If because I am a Jamaican, the Negro should not accept the principle of race, rights, and liberty, or the idea of a free and independent race, then you may well say that because Jesus was a Nazarene, the outside world should not accept his doctrine of Christianity because he was an alien. Because Martin Luther was born in Germany, the world should not accept the doctrine of Protestantism. Because Alexander Hamilton and Lafayette were not born in America, Americans should not accept and appreciate the benefits they bestow upon the nation. Because Marconi was an Italian, we of the New World should not make use of wireless telegraphy. Again, I say great principle, great ideas, no nationality. I know no national boundary where the Negro is concerned. The whole world is my providence until Africa is free. This came from Marcus Garvey. Did he not make a good argument? Did he not make sense? Absolutely he did. Absolutely. Oh, and I want to show you guys a book. So, because I'm going to end this video. I don't want to overwhelm nobody. I probably did, but oh well. I don't give a fuck. Alright, so in this book, which is called Free Negro. Yeah, free Negro owners of slaves in the United States in 1830 together with absentee ownership of slaves in the United States in 1830. Written by Carter G. Woodson. Check this out. As you can see right here. Oh, my bad. Ooh, what am I doing? Alright, so it's an old book. There's the information right there. See? Let's look at the intro. This aim of this report on the free Negroes is to facilitate the further study of this neglected group. Most of these people have been forgotten. For persons supposedly well informed in history are surprised to learn that about 500,000, almost 1/7 of the Negroes of this country were free prior to the emancipation in 1865. It is hardly believed that a considerable number of Negroes were owners of slaves themselves and in some cases controlled large plantations. Oops. Oopsie. And here's the names of those here's the list of the names of the people that were absentee ownership of slaves. Okay? You see? All the names of the people right here. He got the list of them. And these are those who were slave owners. Okay? One person right here slaves, 2 total 13. 25, 26. These are the list of people who were slave owners, and they were black. Okay? So since we're going to argue about ancestors who sold black people into slavery, right? We're not going to talk about those blacks who own slaves in America. Are we forgetting about those people? Have you not done your research? See, it goes deep. You see the list of the names right here? Okay? It goes deep. It's really big. Okay. I'm sorry about that. So, I don't know what's going on with my service. It's tripping. But I'm just going to stop this video right here. Maybe I'll do the part 2 of this to continue. But I'm just going to stop it right here. Because I ain't going to take too long. But it goes deep. Our history is very deep. It's more than just our ancestors selling us into slavery. And you probably going to be a descendant of those ancestors who sold your ancestor into slavery. How about that? But the story goes a lot deeper. So we can't just cherry antagonize other people. We can't do that. It has to go deeper than that. You got to study in details, of course. But anyways, I'm just going to stop right here. Maybe I'll continue some other day. But until then, may peace and power elevation be to all of you. And until next time, this your girl Tiffany. And I'm going to be out. So hopefully I can upload this on my YouTube channel. And it'll go well. So until then, y'all have a good one. Please enjoy yourself and be safe. And I'll reconnect with you all later. All right then. Bye.